Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mo Football, where we talk soccer from grassroots all the way to the pros and sprinkle a little bit of fun soccer. And today, I have the pleasure to have we'll say, a established coach that is well known across not only professional but college soccer. And we just happened to hear a little bit more about Liberty University and his next venture when it comes to coaches on a mission. So, Coach Finley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you not saying I'm old. I think you described me as, what did you
No,
say? So I appreciate that, man. No, it's good. It's good.
I mask it because I shave, so I people can really tell how old I am. So that's the way I do it.
Very good. You look good. You look good.
We're not too far, trust me, not too far. But yes, so with that say, so luckily I've been able to kind of watch what the program that you run, especially on LinkedIn, and see your involvement in soccer. So this platform, what I do is I like to promote not only the sport of soccer in general, and with that is to kind of bridge the gap between grassroots soccer to college to the pros. So you have that pedigree. So hopefully we'll be able to not only no share your experience but also maybe show the kids and those that aspire to be either player or coaches be inspired by your story.
Sounds great, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, so just to kick it off a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about who Coach Finley is, and how what led you to being a coach?
Yeah, I fell in love with the game of soccer at a really young age. I don't even know why, but I always wanted to be a professional player. When I grew up in America, there wasn't much soccer on TV. There was one show that you could watch. It was a show called Soccer Made in Germany with
Okay.
this English guy named Toby Charles. So like every Saturday there was highlights, and it was Soccer Made in Germany by Toby Charles every single Saturday. So it was just the only soccer we could get. I still remember being 12 years old watching the World Cup in Spain, and trying to figure out what in the world was going on because I could only see it on the Spanish channel. Again, growing up in Texas, but I loved the game and just fell in love with it. I was one of the few guys that played in my area, and so I had to end up having to go into Houston. I grew up in Texas. I lived about 45 minutes outside, so we would drive in and just full commitment to playing, and was a good player and got to play in college and then got to play USL afterwards. And getting into coaching, I mean, I thought a couple things. I mean, who wants to wear a suit and tie every day, right? So I love to wear shorts. So, and I love the game of soccer. So if I could extend my opportunity to be around it, then I was all in. And then part of my journey is I became a Christian when I was in college. And that kind of started my journey on kind of melding the two things together, man, my love of the game and my love for my faith in Jesus. And that kind of shaped my future. And that's kind of how I ended up at Liberty.
Yep. Nice, nice. And so I guess to kind of bring it back a little bit. So you've mentioned it's quite interesting. I've heard other people that mentioned that show. So it's interesting where it's German soccer, but yet from an Englishman coming up. So that's definitely a interesting mixture when it comes to Germany and then a British individuals that's talking about soccer in America. So watching that show, was there any specific team or a country that you kind of felt fond of that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was odd was there was teams like Munchen Gladbach. I have no reason that a 12-year-old in Texas should know who Munchen Gladbach is. And I knew these guys, and then when the '86 World Cup came around, I was 16 years old. That's how old I am. You guys can date me
Yeah,
quickly and figure that out.
yeah, you did it.
Yeah. But I loved watching, that was when Maradona won in Argentina. But I knew some of the German guys because of watching a lot of German games. It probably tainted me in a bad way too. I took German in high school. Terrible idea. I grew up in Texas, tons of Hispanic culture, and then now I coach in America. So certainly Spanish would have been a much better idea to do. But honestly, like soccer man in Germany and just that aspect, I fell in love with that part. And I think I wanted to take German in high school because I loved Mönchengladbach, Bayern Munich, Hoffenheim, all these teams that, I should never know. And then, of course, we all loved English football back then. The FA Cup would be on. So like Tottenham Hotspur was a team I loved, and I loved West Ham for whatever reason. Now I follow coaches more. So I'm more of a Jurgen Klopp and an Arne Slot kind of follower than I am actual club.
Okay. So growing up in Texas, was soccer that permanent like it is now, or did you have to kind of find small spots to apply that, play soccer pretty much?
Oh yeah, small spots. I mean, I'm so jealous of kids getting to grow up now in the United States. I mean, you can't. There's games on all the time. Our professional league is proper. I mean, I say I played pro, but it was like fledgling USL. It was the first years I played in like '93. I think was my first year, and the MLS started in '95. So we were kind of just right on the cutting edge of all that stuff getting started. And then the MLS was nothing back then what it is now. So yeah, I mean, I was the guy who played soccer, the weird kid who played soccer, the white guy who played with all the Mexican guys in my town. I would go out to the park and play, and but I just loved it and had a passion for it. But it's been so cool to see the sport grow in the U.S.
Yep. And how would you say, that playing in Texas with more of a cultural space with Mexican and other Latino area, how did that kind of increase your love of the sport, and did that benefit you, which led you to playing in college and, professionally?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, the Hispanic culture has tons of passion, of course, and then passion for football, no question. So I certainly learned. And then, like I said, I would go down and find games on at different places, restaurants, and they were always on at all the Mexican restaurants near my town. So that's where I would go watch games. And then I got to know guys that I played with on teams and in the park. And so I got to know, teams that I should know, like Pachuca and Monterrey and all these different teams. So it certainly, shaped my view, and then also showed me that, man, football is a global game. It's not just in England or Germany, or you meet anyone from another country. And I was a pretty good player as a kid. So if I popped into a game, I was one of the guys.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of soccer. I think the language barrier does not help much as long as you know how to kick the ball and run it. It pretty much, takes care of itself.
100%.
Yes. So then from there, did you play any club soccer? How did that kind of help you, move to college and in the professional stage?
Yeah, there was only two really in the town I lived in. Again, we were about 45 minutes outside of downtown Houston. And so me and about four or five other guys would drive in every day for practice. And we played there was like two really good club teams in Houston. One was called the Houston Nationals, and the other one was called the Houston Gold Stars. And I chose to play on the Nationals. I had this, again, it's a multicultural deal. I played for a Romanian coach. I mean, he was like classic. He had the sweet sideburns, the super tight Adidas, like full tracksuit, smoking while he coached us, just screaming at us. But I learned a lot from him, and he has a great history of developing players. We played in the men's league. I played in the men's Mexican league, the men's African league in town. So just being in a big city, multicultural like Houston, that opened the doors. And then, once I kind of got through the club thing, everybody played high school because, you wanted to meet girls. So that's what you did. You played in the high school soccer team. And we were lucky. We had a good team in Clear Creek, and I got to play in a regional final, I think. And so yeah, I just loved it, man. I played everywhere I could, went to every game I could go to, and just loved the game.
Nice. Yeah. So you met pretty much your, what you get coaches have telling the players that you have your 2,000 touches. You were pretty much clearing that easily on the weekend, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I had to train a lot on my own. So one of my goals was to juggle 1,000. So I got to 1,010 when I was 11. And, I never juggled any more over 100 after that, just because once I hit the goal, who cares? But yeah, man, I would play. I was probably more like kids in other countries just because I had to find it. You had to play in the street with your buddy, and then down the road, and indoor and outdoor, and this place and that place. So Yeah, man, I was a junkie is the best way to put it.
I think, well, for soccer, you picked the right way to be a junkie, right? So soccer, it's a good way to do it. And you mentioned playing high school. I'm not sure if you heard anything about the movement that's currently happening here with the high school Champions League, where they're taking, which started in Tampa Bay, where they're having sort of the best high school um, to join that Champions League, but all best of merits. So where it takes all of the ones that win their classes, and then after that, there's special invitation for those that are voted in by the coaches. So there's no fees or extras. So since you had the experience to play high school soccer, could you share with people maybe one of those benefits, one or two of the benefits to actually um, playing for your high school? I know girls was one of them, but these are any other two that kind of shaped the player that you are now because of high school soccer?
Yeah, I think well, when I got into college coaching, I remember I would call high school coaches for a reference on soccer, but it was more a reference on the kid's character,
Okay.
because when you can kind of fake it a little bit on a club team. You show up for an hour and you play, and then you go home and you could be a completely terrible person off the field, but you can kind of fake it for an hour and a half. Well, you can't do that in high school, right? You're at school, so those teachers, they knew them in the hallway, in the classroom, at lunch, like on the field, all the field, off the field. So I would always call high school coaches for reference, and to me, they knew the person all the way through, not just a player, but they knew them as a student, a member of the community, and then as an athlete. And so I think playing for your high school it's like a cool journey, because you're a freshman and you play for 4 years and you play with different guys. And when you're a freshman, you're like looking up to the seniors; they're the cool guys. And then when you're a senior, you got to take care of the freshmen because you're trying to teach them how to do it. So I think there's so much value in it that you can't really touch outside of the game, that you don't really understand until you go through it. So, yeah, I think high school is a great, valuable tool. And the last thing I'll say is, man, I coached DA for a long time and club stuff. And I was at Sporting Kansas City for 18 months. And, we're playing against FC Dallas. There's like maybe 6 to 10 future pros on the field, and there's 12 people watching the game, right?
Yep.
Then I go to a bad high school game and there's like 2,000 people absolutely rabid, going crazy because they're cheering for their school. So you can't replace the passion for playing for your community.
Love that, and I think the character part cannot be said enough, and definitely I like that point. I'll have to tell those folks they might have to use that as a bullet point. Character first.
There you go.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, so and college wise, how was that your experience? Because I think was that the time where you thought about coaching from there? How was your college soccer life?
Yeah, I was a small guy coming out, and I grew up in Texas, and I wasn't good enough to play at SMU. And luckily, there was a guy who had gone to this other school from our area, and I was playing in like an ODP league, and the coach came down and he liked me, and so I got to go. And it was like, yeah, I don't care where I'm going. So I went to an NAIA school in Chicago, and I was excited to get out of Texas. And I went with a few of my buddies, and we had a great time there, and I got to develop and grow. But the thing I saw about my coach was he was just a different person. He was different than anyone I knew, different than all my other coaches. And the reason was he was a Christian guy. And so he just impacted my life in a way I was like, man, not only did I really get to enjoy playing the game, and we won a lot, and I got really, really good friends, but he showed me that sports is way more than just kicking a ball around, that it can be a big part of your life and your character development. And I was lucky. It had kept me out of trouble. I probably would have gotten in a lot more trouble if I wasn't so focused on. I mean, I never smoked. I've never touched a cigarette. Right. And the main reason was because I didn't want to hurt myself coaching wise, or playing wise. I just thought, oh, I'm not going to hurt myself, my chance to be a pro, by doing something stupid. So I never did it. I didn't really drink a whole lot in high school, or even haven't ever, because it wasn't good for me and I wanted to be a professional. So, but my coach in college really just showed me what it was like to be a leader and a man, and how you could impact people's lives. And that did make me want to be a coach in college for sure.
Excellent. Yeah. So yes. So what is your view now, especially with faith based, because we know that you have to apply that a lot for sportsmanship, like in others. So what would you say is like how that we can kind of teach some of the players or even parents about how to properly guess manage emotions and anything that comes with the sport itself, because there's, as you know, there's been a lot of headlines with parents and coaches and players sort of misbehaving, we'll say.
Yeah.
How, especially that you mentioned how you looked up to your coach and he kind of guided you to the right path of being a player in person, most apparently.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question, Mo. I mean, I think a lot of us, when we put our kids in high end sports, we're thinking about the outcome. The outcome being maybe professional, right? But that's such a small percentage, and then a little bit bigger percentage, but still very small, is can they become a scholarship athlete? So for me, the biggest paradigm shift I would say is what sports is it's a development tool for character, right? It also reveals character. So it's an opportunity that when your son or daughter loses it on the field because they lost their emotions, it's a great opportunity to teach them, to mold them, to shape them, to use that one moment to help them be a better adult, because someday their boss is probably going to make them angry. And if they've learned to manage their emotions playing sports, which is a really high intensity environment, maybe they got a chance in the future to be a better worker. And then, by the way, better parent, better husband, better wife, because they learned how to manage their emotions. So I think that in the end, sports is just a catalyst for character development. And if you can look at it that way, man, the lessons that can be learned, the tools that kids can get out of it is so good. But if you look at it the other way and it's about the outcome, then you're going to be unhappy with the coach and you're going to complain about playing time, and you're going to make your son or daughter bitter about the sport that they used to enjoy. So yeah, my number one piece of advice would be sports is not about an outcome. It's about how much character can you get developed in your son or daughter through the sport.
Oh, nice. I like that. We'll definitely use that one as a clip because I love that part. So and the other part, so just during your progress from being a player to a coach, to a player, sorry, and that you've had coaches kind of mold you into the person that you are now. Would there be one advice that you have for the kids that are in that path, all the way to, we'll say, college? Um, what should they apply or keep in the back of their mind when it comes to their next step, which could be either college or maybe the semi-pro either.
Yeah, I mean, the number one piece of advice is there's always someone out there that's better. There really is. I mean, I just think it's truth, and you do need to work hard, but you also need to enjoy it. I heard this great story the other day that talked about, like, a fool doesn't hold work in either hand. They just let it go. That's a fool thing to do. But then an obsessed person holds work with both hands and they hold it too tight. So a person who can really be successful is you hold on to work really tightly with one hand, but in the other hand, you hold the joy of what you get from your work, the rest you get in your work, the freedom you get from doing it really well, the peace you get from having put the time in. And so I think there's this really important balance of like striving, pursuing excellence, but also resting in the fact that you've given everything you can. I mean, for our family, one of my, we have a lot of my children played soccer. We have 5 kids, my wife and Joanna and I do. And I remember my oldest went to a tryout and he didn't do very well on the first day. And he held it together, but he got in the car and he just broke down in tears. And that's when our family started to say, what are you going to do today? And my kids always reply, because I beat it into them in a nice way, you know what I mean? Not beat them, yes. But I said, they always say, work hard, have fun, do your best. And for me, that's my advice to players trying to make it, is like, look, if you're not working incredibly hard, then you don't deserve it. If you're not having fun, then you're probably not going to be free to play like you should be able to. And then if you're not doing your very best, then you're just worried about concern and you're looking at everybody else and you're comparing. So like focus on what you can control and do, work incredibly hard, and you better enjoy the ride, because why else are you doing it?
Yes, and unfortunately now these sports have almost become a full time job for these kids because I think I joked around says 11-year-old, 12-year-olds are almost are living the professional life already because they're practicing 4 or 5 times a week and games on the weekend. That's pretty much what a pro does, and they eat, sleep, and that's about it. And go to school.
That's right.
Um, and funny enough, I also have 5 kids, so it looks like we also have something else in common.
Nice.
And I have 3 soccer players and 2 swimmers. Um, but yes, I think that's good to hear that I'm not the only. It's rare to hear 5+ kids, so I definitely appreciate that part.
Very cool. Love that.
Yes. And the other part, so knowing, especially on the coaching side, so you also then play professionally with Charlotte Eagles. So how did that transition kind of influence the way you looked at coaching? Did you want it to go the further out as a professional player, or was there a moment where it says, maybe coaching is my calling?
Well, there's only a few players that can end being a professional. You know what I mean? Those are those guys who make multi-millions of dollars, and I was not that good. Well, getting the chance to play USL professionally helped me be a better coach because I failed. Up until that point, I was, a key guy, and I played all the time. And all of a sudden, I got on this team, and there was a couple guys who were better than me, and I had to struggle through that, and I had to deal with the bitterness and the frustration of not playing, and like blaming the coach, of course, and then underperforming, and then figuring that out. And so, how it helped shape me as a coach: one, I got to play with a bunch of guys who were really good players. That's my claim to fame. Not that I'm a good player, but I got to play with good players. My second piece is that I had another 6 years of like pulling in ideas, seeing things, learning, doing different stuff. But the biggest thing is I caught different pieces of what players go through that was going to help me get the most out of them. What a player feels like when he's not playing as much as he feels like he should. Not having clarity on what they need to improve on, not being communicated with well, and just thinking, what am I doing wrong? They need to know that. So it shaped me because I learned more about what a player feels and does, because I had the success piece, then I had some failure, and then I learned how to be a good off the bench guy because the guy who played in front of me was better. So I either had to figure it out or I wasn't going to play. So I figured it out.
Yes, and you touch points, especially on how you had to manage those failures. So there's always one thing that people may forget sometime when it's a professional athlete, just in general, where the physical part and you have the skills to be one, but there's also the mental side of the sport. So it looks like you were early on, you kind of figure out that you knew where you were at that level, and then kind of were aware enough, self-aware enough to kind of look what to do with that experience. So what do you think about the mental aspect of being a soccer player, but an athlete in general? Because um, we tend to kind of forget that part when it comes to athletes.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think the amount of time we put into our hardware, that's what we call it, is like, you got hardware, you got technical skills, you got tactical awareness, right? You have physique, you have athleticism, you have recovery. I mean, you're constantly working on your hardware, but the software is, we're humans, and that's what makes you go as a player. So it's one thing to have great hardware, but I've had plenty of players, played with plenty of players, known many players and coached many players that have unbelievable talent. But wasted talent's a cliche for a reason, because if you don't have the software to use your talent, then you're just kind of wasting your time. So yeah, I mean, I always was a competitive guy, and so winning was something I was driven by, and so there was a mentality. So when I didn't get what I wanted playing wise, like I started to go down a dark road, and so it was good to pull back from that and recognize, like, one, my identity is not in how I perform or what I do. My identity is in the effort and the attitude and how I handle those difficulties. Can I stand back up under the pressure? That's actually the mark of success. And to me, that's what I learned in those moments.
Oh, excellent. And so jumping into your coaching career here, so you're known as the Liberty University coach, and so it's NCAA recognized. And I've watched a few of yours, clips and follow the last couple of games. So it looks like, how would you describe your way of coaching and kind of the way that you've molded Liberty University as a soccer team to be recognized by one of the top schools?
Yeah, I think. Well, I've been coaching college soccer for 25 years, and I think for a long time I was a user of players. I had a guy. I got to do this French course when I was in Kansas City, and I remember the French instructor asked us. He said, "You have to make a decision on whether you're going to be a user of players or a developer of players." And it kind of set me back a little, and I realized, man, I think I've been a user of players most of my career as a coach, because I was using them to get wins so that I could get accolades and get that next job and move on. And and in that course, I was working at a professional academy, so it was about player development as you try to push them in. And then when I came back to college stuff after that stint with the academy, I realized, who do I want to be as a coach? Who do I want to be known as? And so how I coach is, I want to be a developer of people. I just kind of do it through football, basically. So I always try to challenge them. I used to do drills where I would be like, oh, if everyone saw this, they would think I'm a good coach. And it looks sharp and crafty. Well, the bottom line is those players weren't getting any better, but it made me feel good about myself. So now I would say I'm a developer of players. I'm a developer of young men, and my goal is to use the sport of soccer to challenge and grow them and help them thrive and meet goals, fail, get up, left, right, you name it, to help them be the men they're going to be on the back end of it. And we just happen to do it through a sport we all love.
Nice, nice. Yes, and also one part of being a student athlete, the first thing is a student. So, and I guess also pride myself on making sure that how we grew up, especially with African parents, school and grades is number one. You can even be a professional soccer player, and if your grades were not the greatest, you will still get that. So, but I saw that your teams were having some of the record GPA levels. So, what motivated you to kind of instill that work ethic off the field? And is that something that the players will always talk about after playing for you?
Yeah, I certainly hope they'll always talk about it. I mean, I think you said it really well, Mo. The idea of student athlete, right? It's a holistic approach. I think collegiate NCAA collegiate soccer was for sure, and can hopefully still be in the future, one of the best player development aspects and tools in the entire world. I mean, think about the facilities. We have a nutritionist, we have a sports psychologist, we have an academic person. So they're getting like academic training, they're getting sports training. We have a full-time strength conditioning coach. I mean, they're getting all these things to help them develop as a person. And by the way, it's incredibly hard to be a professional athlete. So only a very, very small portion. So the majority of guys that are playing college are growing into better people, better workers, better human beings, better dads, husbands, you name it, et cetera. So for me, it is, if you're not doing all those things well, if you're not pursuing excellence off the field, then you're not certainly going to be able to do it on the field either. And so our guys know we have high expectations. If I need to sit you out of training, then you can study if you're not worried about your grades, because I know that in the end, that's going to cause your performance to go down anyway.
Nice. Bench time for school. I can respect that.
I
I'm not
hope your
sure.
parents would like that one.
I will hope so. I mean, there's no guarantee, but a degree is guaranteed if you put the work in. So I kind of like that. I'll probably use that with my son because he thinks it's soccer first and then homework, but that's a different discussion
That's right.
altogether.
That's right.
So yes, so when during the season you have the up and down of being the student athlete life. So how do you guys manage the heavy workload, especially where you have like 3 months or so that you have to for your season to kind of put together compared to at the sport they may have the whole entire year. So how do you guys manage keeping those grades, keeping the kids enjoying the sport, and at the same time enjoying their college experience?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I went to a presentation once and they talked about the triangle that is college sports. You know, that triangle is you have a social aspect, you have an academic aspect, and you have the athletic aspect. And I think not letting any of them get too far out of control is important. You know, and social could be, you know, girlfriend, just enjoying your life, like having a friend group, even your parent. I mean, all those things. So that's, and then the academic piece, and then the athletic piece. So really striking a balance in all those things is important. Time management is anyone, if you ask anybody what's the most important thing to most important tool to help you be successful in college, is time management. If you let your academics get too far ahead of you, you're going to feel that stress, and therefore you're not going to perform on the field. You know, if you don't get enough sleep, then athletically you can't perform. If you're too busy playing, you know, FIFA and video games, like it's gonna take away from your time, and so therefore you're going to get stressed about school and everything else. So yeah, it really is, and we're lucky in the level I'm able to coach at. You know, we have academic advisors that help, and we have free tutors, and you know, we have a gym that we can kind of use regularly, and all these kind of recovery tools. So it is about balance, though. You know, you think about that triangle. If any of them get too big, then you're going to be overwhelmed in another area that's going to affect the other.
And I have to say, probably for us Europeans or outside of the US, I will say that the facilities that student athletes have, it's quite impressive. I've toured a few of them, and I'm like, that's in some part of the world, some professionals don't even have that type of facility. So they definitely have one way to kind of build them as athletes and student athletes. So another part is, how do you guys manage, the up and down of that season? Like if there's something that kind of switch during your season, where I guess a losing streak or player going down, how do you guys manage that as a group?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the biggest challenge is keeping your mindset right whenever you don't get what you want. Yeah, but I think that's also why a lot of companies like to hire student athletes, right? In the end, like you have to be goal oriented. You have to deal with setbacks. You have to work as a team. You have to sacrifice what you want. There's all these things. So, you know, if you try to run from those things, you're actually losing the value in the program that you're running. So we try and lean into those. I mean, I talked to a good friend of mine the other day who, I'm not going to say his name, but he's an amazing coach, crushed it at the school he's at, just been like literally a legend. And they're having the worst year he's ever had. Right. And so I was like, hey, if you want to call me, I can help you with losing because I've done it enough in my career and I know how to handle it, you know, like, but you know, the ups and downs are going to come. And I think, you know, helping your athletes understand that, and this goes with like, whether it's high school, club, college, professional, doesn't matter. You're not going to win every game. You're going to have an injury, right? You're going to have a setback. You're going to have a stressful week. Like, the real test, that's exactly what you want to have, because it's going to help you in the future to be stronger in those moments, to have the courage to push through those things. So lean into those things, don't run from them. And for me, that's exactly the best part about college is the ups and downs, the challenges that come, because it prepares the guys for life.
Yes, and I also like to ask, coaches and players. So, what keep you motivating? Is there certain books or mentors or anything around the sports that kind of help you stay motivated? And if there's a downtime, that you can use those moments as reference to kind of help you mitigate those issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's tons of guys. There's a guy named Dan Abrams who wrote a book named Soccer Tough. I think that's a really good one. There's a guy named James Clear who he wrote Atomic Habits, and those are two really good books. And I love Atomic Habits. And the idea is not like atomic bomb, like blow up. It's like atom. You know, the small little things that you stack to improve yourself. So yeah, all those. There's a lot of great books. The other one I've been reading recently is called. It's by a guy named Jamie Winship. It's called Living Fearless. To me, being able to have the courage to step into the field and not play afraid, just play bold and get turned and take guys on. And look, if I'm a wide player and I get the ball at my feet and my expectation is I'm going to beat that guy 1 out of 4 times. Well, if I've been beaten 3 times and you have a player that has a mentality, I'm definitely going to win this next one because I've just lost the duel 3 times. They're going to get it. And finding ways to motivate them. So Living Fearless is a great one. The other couple I mentioned, but there's so many good books out there that kind of help you kind of grow into that. But I just think letting the players understand that, look, you're going to fail, right? There's no guarantee of what's coming. Look to other people to help them grow. And if you're not taking risks and you're not getting better, I think it's a Wayne Gretzky quote, right? Like, I missed every shot I didn't take. Well, the idea is like, if you don't shoot, you're not going to score. So I think that's the best part about playing sports is you got to make mistakes. It's all about how you respond.
Absolutely. And I will make sure to put those in the link below. So hopefully, if anyone wants to watch it or read it, we'll be able to share that. And one other part before we discuss about the funny questions or the fun questions that I have. So the other part is that we saw the news that you will be also transitioning to coaches on a mission. So could you tell us a little bit more about that program and what you're hoping um, to accomplish with your next phase of your soccer career?
Yeah, thanks for asking, man. I a few years ago had one of the hardest seasons I've had as a coach, and I had a young guy come to me, one of my players, and was like, "Coach, I think you got to figure out who you are. Like, I see you being this like people developer and a guy, and then when you get on the field, like you're so intense, it's scary." He's like, I think both those are pretty good. He goes, but I'm not sure you know which one you want to be. And I was like, whoa, it really shook me, Mo. It made me think, okay, who do I want to be? And what I realized, I want to be a developer of people. And I want to be a coach that gives courage to others. And so that year we kind of kicked off a revamp of Coaches on Mission. So a group had been doing it before in Nashville and it was going okay. So we rebranded it and moved it to Charlotte. And so the vision for Coaches on Mission is how can we empower, encourage, and equip coaches to develop and point people to Jesus is the main part of it, but so many coaches out there, we're coaching for ourselves. We're using players to try and get a trophy or get that next job or make a lot of money or whatever it is. So the idea for Coaches on Mission is just, can your mission be to see how far you can take your players, how much you can grow them, how many technical skills, you called it software, hardware, whatever, like how many different things can you give them to help invest and grow? And your mission is, can I develop the individuals I'm in charge of and I get to be in charge of to become the best versions of themselves possible? So I got a chance to kind of run some national events, and then we're doing some local events. And then I'm hopeful that we'll even start our own like cohorts where we bring in like 4 or 5 groups of 4 or 5 coaches, and we meet weekly and we're going over football, we're going over life development. And then we have like a coaches symposium in the summer where they come for a long-term like coach ed thing. So the idea is just, man, how can you use coaching to grow and develop people?
I like that, and you keep mentioning development, and I think that's probably one of the things that maybe be forgotten quite a lot, especially where the pressure of winning, the pressure of having the hardware, the pressure of showing that your team club or colleges are the best. Sometimes so a lot of those kids kind of fall to the the pipeline just because of that fact. Um, and speaking of development, we all know a lot of the athletes develop at their own pace,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we know some will probably be a lot faster, or some may be the best at their age group, and then kind of phase it down as they get to meet with other for other age groups. So, do you have any recommendations or any advice for parents, coaches, anyone that's around athletes about the development part of it, and maybe not rushing it as much?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I mean, it's funny. I think probably U15, U14 age group is kind of the funniest one to go out and watch a game in, because you're gonna go out and you're gonna say a 15-year-old, and he looks like he's 18. I mean, he's got a full beard, hair on his chest, the whole deal. And then you got another 15-year-old that looks like he's 12, and
Yeah.
he's just squeaking around, and so the bottom line is where they are now is not where they're going to end up. And my advice to parents and players, especially, because they feel it, this young kid's like, man, I can't do this. I can't do that. And you just go, look, you'll be able to in 2 years. The message is one, keep going. That's the message. Right. The second thing is it's a journey. It's not a straight line for anybody. I mean, there's so many players out there that there's only a few players who are ever like the best guy ever. There's always the guys that like, yeah, he played on his high school team and he wasn't that good. And then he made this team and then he made that team. And all of a sudden he's playing, professionally. There was a guy who played at Cornell, man. He was a sophomore, didn't really score many goals, scored 21 goals his junior year. And he's like, wait a second, why is everybody talking to me? Did it again. Now he's playing the MLS. I mean, those kind of things, the journey is what it's about. And you just have to keep improving every day, keep working every day, work hard, have fun, do your best, like we said earlier. If you do those things, then you have a chance to reach your potential. And that's the magic word, is potential, right? Because your potential is not going to be my potential, and that guy's is not going to be yours. And so therefore, it's how can I maximize what I've been given by God, and how can I make that the best I can be? Instead of looking left or right, I'm just trying to make sure I'm focused on what I'm doing. And then it is a dogfight, man. It's hard work for sure. And everybody thinks being a pro and making it to Division I level is glamorous, but there's a lot of setbacks that come with it. So you got to be able to ride those.
Oh yes, we only see the end product of the fancy cars flying, but not many people know the sacrifices that came before the glory. We'll call it. And the last part, so you are being a college coaches. So we know all the grind that you guys have to go through. Even though the season might be 3 months, you guys are scouting, doing all that for 12 months. For you, a fun day, how does it start and how does it end?
Man, great question. I'm a cyclist, so my a fun day for me is it's super sunny here today. It's beautiful, like mid 80s. So a beautiful day to me is like getting on my bike, going on a gravel road out in the country, getting in like 20 to 30 miles, and just enjoying a beautiful day. Great sweat, and go to bed super tired because I'm exhausted from a ride. And of course, I want my family involved in my good day. So it'd be a great breakfast, go on a great gravel ride, make an amazing meal with my wife, sit and chat with my family, and then go to bed exhausted because I've had a magic day.
Oh, so I like that. So I will going to ask you 5 questions. They're kind of random. Some of them are random, but just to get a feel of, the coach is smiling because, being a coach, I'm sure you don't get to smile quite a lot. So the first question is, Messi or Ronaldo, and why?
It's brutal. I'm gonna go Messi because I'm a short guy.
Okay.
But no, I'm Messi because he came to America would be a big part. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when Beckham came to the U.S. and the impact, and you can already see it, man. The amount of Messi jerseys I see at camps right now, and to me, that grows the sport I love in the United States. So 100% Messi.
Okay. Yes, they're everywhere. Even when he's not playing, I see them all. Yes, I
Yeah.
think I like that one. Um, was there any player that you watched growing up that say, "I want to be that guy one day"?
Yeah, the guy I wanted to be was Lothar Matthäus. So
Okay.
that's an old school. So when Germany won the 1990 World Cup, he was the man. He was nails, fit, covered ground. Another guy would have been Dunga.
Okay.
That was kind of my type of midfielder. So Lothar Matthäus was definitely the guy I wanted to be.
You like the beast guy that's in the midfield that I'm afraid everyone is afraid to get a stat from. It
That's
sounds
right.
like excellent. So yes, and now we're having the World Cup coming in, and the whole madness that's already starting with the ticket pricing. But how do you feel about one, the US, and then the second thing, how much of an impact having all of these countries coming into America to ensure share their cultures. You've lived in Houston, close enough to Houston, so you've had that cultural melting pot. So how do you feel about now? It's not just a few countries; it will be 48 of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the World Cup's an amazing thing. I still remember in '94 when it was in the U.S., I got to go to 3 games. I got to go to the semifinal in the Rose Bowl and watch Brazil beat Sweden. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to change the country. I remember when we didn't make the World Cup in whatever year that was, I was devastated. I think it was 22, right? It was just like, man, what happened like that? I remember just we tied Trinidad and thinking, oh, it's
Oh
just
boy.
a setback, you know? So yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to grow the sport. It's already growing. The MLS is just like crushing it right now. So many teams, quality of player, the money that's being spent, the stadiums. I mean, so I just hope it's one of these things that just makes everybody go, man, this now we see why it's the world's most popular sport.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so to close out, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people that will be watching this show? Anything that we've not discussed or you want to bring up? Because the beautiful things is that we're trying to kind of bring our experience of what soccer is like and kind of bridge the gap between grassroots to the pros and college in between because we're still in a few silos, but hopefully we'll kind of bring that to more people.
Yeah, love it. No, I think the only thing I'd like to add is just, you know, if people are interested in checking out Coaches on Mission, to go to our website. It's easy to find, coachesonmission.com. Appreciate you having me on. Man, I love talking about the game. I love what it does to develop character in people. You know, we kind of talked about hardware and software. And, you know, I think when I was a young coach, I thought hardware was the most important thing. So I'd work on my drills and my tactics and all that kind of stuff. And as I've gotten older, I realize how much more important software is, that, you know, the human being is playing the sport. You know, it's people that play the sport. It's not the sport that matters the most. So I would just encourage all coaches and players out there to enjoy the game and find passion and joy in it, and don't hold the bunny too tight, you know. And last, just if you're interested in anything that I've said, man, Coaches on Mission is available. There's tons of great resources. We have all our videos from our events on there. Got some great people like Greg Berhalter, Tom Heineman, Brian Masonoff. I mean, Martin Rennie, some really big hitters on there. There was some great insight on how to grow as a coach. So coachesonmission.com, go check it out.
Yep, definitely appreciate your time. And soccer is the one sport that can bring people from all walks of life. If it wasn't for the sport, we probably would not have known each other. So that's always a good thing that I've made a lot of acquaintances, a lot of friends just because of soccer. So that's a very good thing. And definitely appreciate your time. And I'll definitely will be sharing all of the content, all of the links and coaches on the mission, and make sure we keep track of what you guys are doing. And hopefully you guys make it to St. Louis and we can make it in person.
That'd be sweet. We actually this year, yeah, we are. We'll probably be at the conference tournament. We're playing. Lindenwood is hosting our conference tournament.
Okay. Oh, nice. Well, they're 15 minutes from my house. So
There you
if it
go.
happens, I will be there.
I love it. That'd be great to meet you in person, man.
Always, always. Yes. So definitely appreciate your time. Anyone that have watched, make sure you like, subscribe, and also certainly make sure you follow Coach Finley because any coaches that decide to develop players prior to anything else has always my utmost respect. All right. Thank you all for joining.